Very good morning to everybody. Today I'm going to introduce with the first session. In this session, we are going to look at the components of the immunology, that is an active and passive immunity. We are also going to look at different types of active immunity and different types of acquired immunity. And we are also going to see how these immunities are brought about by different organs. So we are also going to look at the different defense lines in our body. However, to begin with, we are going to look at these two terms and define. So what is immunology? Immunology is science that deals with the defense system in the human body. Microbiology is a science that deals with microscopic organisms that are either harmful or useful. So these two terms are interrelated because when the microbes harms our body, our body try to defend those microorganisms and prevent from the body injury. Therefore, these two terms are very often used, and therefore we find it in one module. All right, to introduce with the today's sessions, today we are going to look at the immunity. So let's know what is immunity is. Immunity is a resistance offered by the host body towards the injury caused by the microorganisms. So anybody that tries to resist the infection by the microorganisms is called immunity. There are innate immunity and acquired immunity. The innate immunity is immunity that is present in our body due to the inborn ability to resist the infection by any microorganisms. This innate immunity can be specific or non-specific. Specific, like some species or some races or some individuals are very, they are not very specific, because every species are not resistant to all kind of disease. Similarly, if you look at the human races, black peoples are resistant to the malarial, whereas many other races are not. Similarly, resistance of every individual differ from individual to individual. Therefore, this innate immunity in species, races, or the individual differs. Therefore, is a non-specific. Specific, some of the species have got a particularly specific, and therefore, one example, as I said, the black peoples are more resistant to the malarial infections. So what we are saying is innate immunity is resistance developed by a body where that has built when they were born. So inborn resistance is called innate immunity. Now acquired immunity during the lifetime, once they are born, and if they comes to meet with certain disease, or they can get vaccinated, and such kind of immunity where they try to get immune themselves through artificial injections are called adaptive or the acquired immunity. So let's just to look at this overall class, different classes of different groups of immunity. Immunities are being divided into active and passive immunity, innate immunity and adaptive immunity. Innate immunity is by birth or by genetics. Adaptive immunities are natural or artificial. Natural, when a person is come across with the different kinds of microorganisms that cause disease, that are natural. So a person may get immune when they are exposed to a different types of disease during their lifetime. Adaptive immunity uh, is also can be called artificial when a person's acquire through artificial injections, like it can be a transfer of antibody to the body to just to get, if the person's body is not able to produce antibody, so injections directly, antibodies are injected into the body. If especially young baby, when they are born, they are immunized with the certain components of an active germs, or the body of the germ can be introduced to the body of a baby who is at the growing stage. And when this exposed, body cells will try to produce protections, and that kind of immunity where the artificially try to inject the germs into the body, host body, and produce immunity is called artificial active immunization. Natural can be passive or can be uh, in- or infection. Sorry, active. Natural natural active is when you are accidentally, if you happen to come across with the germs that are highly infectious, and your bodies are able to resist, and thereafter our body would know that our body is well prepared to defend such kind of germs, and that is called natural active immunities. Whereas passive is when the babies are born, babies are not directly able to protect themselves when they are just born. So maternal milk from the mother has got some kind of antibody that directly that gives protection to the baby, and such kind of immunities are called natural passive immunity. All right, here just to show you how the process that happens in innate immunity. In case of innate immunity, the individuals when it since these individuals when it exposed to the environment is full of microorganisms. Anytime any microorganisms try to invade the body of an human, so when it settle on the body, it comes on the skins, or it try to enter through any ports of our body, mouth, it can be from the body skins, it can be from the any soft region of the body. So when the microbes comes into contact with that, there are three layers of protection. First layer is the skin itself. Skin doesn't allow any microbes to get in. However, if these microbes are so strong that it can penetrate through the skin, then it goes to the second layer of defense. You have seen that once the microbes gets into your body, then what happens is we will have a swelling, itching, the unease. Your cells are infected by the microorganisms, so your body would not feel comfortable. You will have a swellings, you will have inflammations, and you will have a fever, you will have high temperature on that reasons. And this happens because there is a lot of naturally killer cells like phagocytes, NK, natural killer cells, and neutrophils. So these cells are very active, and these cells are found in the tissue regions and even in the bloods. So such if microbes are really able to penetrate through the skin first barrier, then it can be killed in the second regions by the group of cells. If even these second groups of cells are not able to kill, they escaped and reach to the inside of the body, interior part of the body. There is a third line of defense where you are going to see a lot of complements. Complements are the proteins. These proteins are useful to destroy those microbes, and there is also the B cells, and then there is a NK cells, natural killer cells, which are very very active. So this is active because this complements proteins helps to destroy these microbes. Therefore, there are three line of defense: first layer, second layer, and third layer. Now, even if third layer is not being able to defend it, then it continues to move inside. Uh, it can go to the either the B cells, and the T cells are found uh, further inside. Therefore, there are different layers of defense in our body. This is what is very important to know about. So, especially innate immunity is brought about by these different layers and different components of the cells. In case of adaptive immunity, now how people are able to, how our body is able to recognize that, and then prepare for future attacks. If in case one of the microorganisms attacks our body, the B cells and B cells in our body, as you know that B cells and T cells are found in the blood and produced in the blood bone marrow. These B cells particularly, what happens is if it encounters microbes, these B cells will recognize the microbes and it will try to produce antibody specific to these microbes. And these antibodies, if you look at these antibody, which is very specific to that, will destroy these microbes. And now what happens is these B cells has already produced a certain group of cells. These cells will be kept as a memory cells, and these memory cells will be retained throughout the life. These memory cells will remember what kind of microbes that has entered. So in case same microbes comes and attack again, these B cells which is in the memory will directly produce antibody and destroy. And that is what you call the adaptive immunity. And also there is a T cells, which is, I said, is being again found in the blood. These T cells it doesn't produce antibody. However, what happens is these will recognize with the help of some cell recognizing factors which is present on the surface of the T cells. If encounter again and again similar kind of microbes, these T cells will multiply and try to act on the microbes directly. As a result, T cells will destroy itself and it will be attacking the microbes and it will die itself. Therefore, T cells do not keep any memory. However, B cells do retain in the memory. When the B cells, memory cells is active, T cells also get activated. As a result, they work in a coordination. So innate immunity is just an elaboration of whatever we have discussed. So what is innate immunity? Innate immunity is a native immunity resistance to the infection that an individual possesses by virtue of his genetic and the constitutional makeup. So every individual has different ability to resist the microbes. So this is innate immunity. It's not specific prior to the contact of microorganisms or immunization. It may be specific and non-specific, which I already said. Specific, particular degree, particular to specific to the pathogen. So immunity can be very specific. Non-specific when indicate degree of resistance to the general. It doesn't be if it's not specific. Innate immunity, if you see this is some of the species, entire human species resistant to the plant pathogen, because any germs that affects the plant doesn't affect the human being, and that's why this is very specific. Racial immunity is particularly that of the negroid, which I said to you. Example, negroid species in US is more prone to TB than Caucasians. Is there another way you see that how they are different people, group of people have a different immunity, individual. And the evidence from the studies on the twins, the degree of resistance and susceptibility to TB varies, even if in between the twins, one person may suffer from TB while other will not. So this means it's a very, very specific. Factor influencing the level of the innate immunity are the age, hormone, and nutrition. Probably it's very easy. Old and young people are more immune to a lot of diseases. And then when the level of hormones, for example, if there is a hormone level up and down, that causes a lot of diseases, hyperthyroidism, adrenal dysfunctions, diabetes mellitus. These are some of the diseases corticosteroids increase inflammatory effects. So these are some hormonal imbalance would also cause the disease. Nutritional lack of nutrition in their diet also cause some disease. So now, as I have shown you while explaining the different mechanisms in the innate and acquired immunity, I have shown you the three lines of defense. So there are our body has got three lines of defense. First is the skin, mucus. Skin and mucus, for example, nose as a mucus. For example, your any entry, port of entry, softer port of entry, like let's say anus, and even the reproductive tracts are the softer region where the germs can very well enter into our body. However, in this there are certain substances being produced to prevent the microorganisms entering into it. So first line of defense is the skin, and then mucuses that are produced on the skin. Even if you look at in our body, when you are in the hot place, you often sweat. That is, sweat has got a lot of antimicrobial substance, and therefore infection of skin is being prevented. Second line of defense, antimicrobial proteins and the phagocytes and other cells are present. Even if microbes are able to enter through the skins, then there is a second layer where there is a lot of proteins that recognizes the microbes and activate the phagocyte cells and other cells, defending cells. So these second line of defense are those proteins and cells that helps to destroy the uh, microbes. The very important cell is the phagocytes, which destroys the microbes directly. Mechanisms of this innate immunity is epithelial surface. Epithelial surface, first, our body surface is the first line of defense. Second is antibiotic substance present in the blood and tissue that helps it. Microbial antagonisms, there are certain group of microorganisms which is present in our body, and that actually resists the colonizations of other harmful germs. Therefore it is very important that we should not be destroying the germs that are present within our body. Particularly, for example, when you have a lot of bacteria that is present in our small intestines, particularly the bacteria that breaks down our food. So if you take a lot of medicine that is against the bacteria, that will kill these microbes. As a result, what happens is there is no such beneficial microbes, and harmful microbes dominates, and that cause disease. Cellular factors and the innate factors, for example, cellular factors is one, say, phagocytic cells, which destroys directly the by engulfing those microbes, harmful microbes. Inflammations, as you know that very well, if there is a prick, if your finger or your body is being pricked by the nails, you will see that it will be swollen afterwards. You will have fevers, it becomes hot and it becomes painful, and this is all because there are a lot of protein accumulation, protein accumulations. You will know which are the protein later on. There's a lot of protein accumulation that prevents the further multiplication of microbes. The other thing is lot of cells from the blood vessel oozed out to control the further multiplication of microbes, and some of the cells like phagocytes will directly attract the microbes. As a result, inflammation is one way of immunity. Fever, high fever do helps actually to control the germs, because high fever meaning that there is a lot of reactions going on. So as a result, there will be a lesser activity of the microbes. Acute phase proteins are some of the proteins which are very active, and then these proteins are playing a big role in controlling these germs. Therefore these are called acute phase proteins. Now, These epithelial, we are talking about the each layers. The first layer of defense mechanism, your skin has a high concentration of salt. Our sweats are containing a lot of salt. Sebaceous gland, oily secretion, long fatty chains, fatty acid chains, soap that contributes the healthy skins, and as a result that it prevents the bacterial infection. Respiratory mucus, is a very vulnerable to infections. Nose anatomy, that a nose has got a lot of hairs, a lot of mucus, and that prevents entry of the microbes and the dust particles. Mucous lining and mucopolysaccharides and pulmonary alveoli. uh, Although pulmonary alveoli has got a lot of phagocytic cells, even after having a lot of line of defense, if the bacteria or any microbe that reaches to the alveoli, that will be direct attacked by the phagocytes. The mouth, our mouth has got a lot of substance that is being produced to protect our body. Saliva, digestive juice, and highly acidic stomachs are the some of the substance that acts against those microorganisms. Eye, lacrimal secretions, which is actually in our eyes when you tears falls, there are a lot of lacrimal secretions, which is antibacterial substance are present. So this antibacterial substance breaks down all those microbes that enters into our body. So, and the urines also flush out. As flush out action of the urethra is one of the good example of protection in our body. The spermines contains zinc, which is antibacterial, and acidity of an adult uh, women's vagina contains a lot of fluids, particularly the fluid is mostly acidic, and which is very inhostile and not favorable for the pathogens to enter. So antibacterial substance in our blood, even if it continue to enter into our the bacteria or any other microbes enter to the blood tissue, there are a lot of substance present within the blood like beta lysins, basic polypeptides or leucinins, lactic acids or lactoperoxidase or interferon. These are the substance that controls both bacteria and virus. These early four controls the bacteria, and the last one protects against the virus. So interferons is a viral protein that prevents the viral infections into the cells. So microbial antagonisms, which I said, like there are a lot of useful bacteria present within our body. However, if you take a lot of medicines against the bacteria, this will kill all those useful flora of bacteria, and then that prevents the colonizations of that flora which is present within our body, prevents actually the colonizations by the harmful bacteria. However, if you kill those useful bacteria, then harmful bacteria will dominate and it will colonize and cause disease. This is what is very important. That's the reason that we should not be taking antibiotic against the against the bacteria. Now, cellular factors within that, which are the cells, like phagocytic cells, like macrophages and microphages, are the two different types of cells that are specialized to attack the microbes that enters into the cells. So these cells are very, very useful, and they are found along within our blood cells. So it moves along with the blood cells, and it is also found in the different lymph nodes, where it will be sitting accumulated, waiting for the signals to be triggered so that it moves to our right sides and then attacks the microbes. Natural killer cells is another group of cells which is very specific against the viral infection. This is for the bacteria or any other microbes. This is for the bacteria. Natural killer cell attacks the bacteria. So this is the process actually how the bacteria is engulfed by the phagocytic cells. Phagocytic cells are found in the blood circulations. It oozed out wherever there is a microbes infections, and it try to destroy the microbes in this manner. The microbes is being engulfed, digested by using lysosomes and is being splitted, broken down, and those undigested, broken down, killed microbes are being ejected out. Inflammations, as I said already, inflammation is one of the mechanism to prevent the further infections. A lot of protein accumulation, lot of phagocytic cells come in there and prevents the further multiplications of pathogens. So it destroys and controls. Therefore, inflammations process is very useful for defending from the infections by the different uh, harmful microorganisms. So this is what the inflammations look like. If there is any pricking by the nails, a lot of bacterial infections, and when there is a bacterial infection, proteins signals these blood vessels. The blood vessel containing WBC all creep out of the blood vessels and comes around the infection site, and then it engulfs those bacteria and destroys all. So of course, these cells, WBC cells, that is phagocytics and natural killer cells, they themselves get destroyed. Therefore, these cells has got a very short lifespan. And you see here, this is a once the nail is pregnant, then there is a lot of solent because it's the accumulations of bacteria, proteins, and uh, uh, what you call immune cells, phagocytic cells, and natural killer cells. Finally, it destroys, and then your uh, disease are all being destroyed, so your wound will subside. And acute phase protein, which I said just before, these are the sudden increase of concentration of protein at the site of infections are called acute protein phase. You have seen this is where it called a lot of proteins is being produced, as well as there is a lot of bacteria, brown under the bacteria. These purple ones are the proteins synthesized just to send a signal. Signal is being sent to this to the blood vessel. From the blood vessel, this WC creeps out, particularly the phagocyte, that destroy the bacteria. So these are the different proteins. This is being mentioned here, and these proteins are also have got some kind of complementary. Particularly, these complementary interferons are for uh, prevent the bacterial infection. So, and there is also another protein which is very specific for the bacteria, are the interferons. So please try to understand some terms that I said to you, which are the protein that are specific to bacteria, which are the protein that are specific to control protein. Right, when there is a interferon, whenever there is a uh, virus that attacks, the virus genes enter into the host cell. It when it enters, the host cells will produce interferons molecules, protein signal. This signal go to a neighboring cell. If this cell is being infected by the virus, this cell will produce interferon. This interferon move to the neighboring cell. Neighbor cell will get a signal to the genetic genes. These genes will protect antiviral protein, which will block the further entry of the virus, further entry of the new virus. See there, it is being blocked here. So this is how interferons act immediately to prevent the further multiplications of a virus. So complements, there are a lot of complementary proteins which is helps actually to further infections. This complement protein, interferon proteins, these are all acute phase proteins. Like C-reactive proteins is also one of the uh, acute phase proteins. All right, C-reactive proteins. So with this, we have come to an end of the first session. Uh, Thank you so much for listening, and then probably you may need to work out on the questions that is given after the second session. Thank you so much. So I'm going to close for the first part of the first session.